In this week's web video fishing forecast for New England, we've got details on spring subscription sale for the Fisherman magazine, good through the end of March, lingering ice fishing reports in both Connecticut and New Hampshire, the early opening of trout season in Connecticut with some great catches being reported, trout stocking updates in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut, word from some New Englanders heading down south to Florida for a little warm water action, and much more. Check it out.
The Fishing News is sponsored by these fine partners.
Hey there, Toby Lapinski for the New England edition of the Fisherman magazine with this week's web video fishing forecast for New England. Well, as you can see, I'm out here streamside right now doing a little trout fishing. Get more into details on that in just a minute, because before I hop into this week's reports, I want to pass along word of a spring subscription sale that we here at the Fisherman magazine just launched. So now through March 31st, you can take $5 off a one-year print sub to the Fisherman magazine. This is good on all new, renewed, and gift subscriptions, and for just $24.95 gets you access to all the awesome content, print and digital, that comes with a Fisherman magazine subscription. And of course, that includes free entry into subscriber-only fishing tournaments like the Dreamboat Fishing Challenge, which returns for 2021. You can subscribe right now by clicking on the subscription button located at the top right-hand corner of every single page of thefisherman.com, by clicking the YouTube card, which is the link that just popped up the upper right-hand corner of your YouTube screen right now, or of course, anytime calling our service, a customer service number, 866-347-4836. Again, don't delay, as this offer is only good through the end of March. All right, well, again, I'm out here trout fishing a little bit today before I shot the video. But despite seeing some really nice weather, we had temperatures that exceeded 60 degrees in some places across New England this week. For the first time this year, intrepid anglers are still finding safe, fishable hard water, but it is melting fast, and those options for ice fishing are reducing by the day. I heard from Clayton and James this week. They checked in after taking a ride up north to Lake Winnipesaukee to try to find their last ice fish of the season, and sure enough, they added yet another species to their list through the ice for this season. The ice was thick enough to drive the car out onto the lake still, but they said it took a little bit of time to find somewhere to fish, as they were not the only ones to hit that late ice. There was people everywhere they checked. Eventually they found an area with no one fishing, and they iced a few smallmouth bass, again adding to their new species for the season through the ice. So that's a great shot of fish. Those guys have been on the ice all winter long, doing really, really well. James noted as we talked that now he's going to be moving on to other things that would involve trout, of course, before the spring run of striped bass and shad arrive. And honestly, in Massachusetts waters, the timing couldn't be better, as Massachusetts Fish and Wildlife has begun spring trout stocking, with brook and rainbow trout being stocked on and near Cape Cod this week. From Brewster to Plymouth, expect to find some fresh fish, with efforts slowly moving west with warming waters and receding ice in the coming days and weeks. Moving on down into Rhode Island, I still don't have any sort of official word of a potential early opening of trout fishing season. I know a lot of you out there from Rhody have been asking about this. Although, of course, last week when I referenced this in regards to Connecticut, the season opened up in the time between shooting, producing, and distributing the video, but things have changed, as you will see once I get to that. So hey, who knows? By the time you're actually watching this, anglers in the Ocean State might be open to trout fishing. But for now, as the time I'm shooting this or not, I also checked on the current trout stocking status in Rhody, but there were not any recent updates on the DEM website or the Division of Fish and Wildlife Facebook page. I also checked the trout stocking map, which as the time that I was checking it actually was down, so maybe they're doing some updates on it. Obviously, I'm going to continue to monitor this and post updates at thefisherman.com and report back here in my weekly videos as this story develops and status changes for you. But moving down into Connecticut, the big news this week was that on March 5th, the governor officially opened trout season for Connecticut anglers. Now, that's more than a month earlier than originally scheduled. Now, the reasons for this action are quite varied, and as is always the case, the angling public was not slow to take to social media, both in support and opposition of the change. Be sure to give a look to my post on discussing the whole item, the news story, at thefisherman.com, as the opening does not mean that harvest is wide open in all waters. This is a bit of confusion for some people. Specifically, TMAs, the trout management streams, rivers, trout management lakes with existing harvest restrictions remain so right now. You cannot harvest fish outside those normal regulations at the TMAs, the TMLs, etc. So be sure to read the story that I posted at fisherman.com, check your local regulations, and double and even triple check before you set out to the water. If the end of the day you plan to take a couple of trout home for the smoker, make sure that you're not violating those regulations. And of course, with that early opening of trout, a bunch of locations obviously were back on the table for anglers over the weekend that closed as of the first day of March. And regular report contributor Dave Bocaz hit up Black Pond in Connecticut this weekend, and he provides us with the following report.
Thank you, Toby. Coming at you from Connecticut again. This is Black Pond, where earlier in the week, me and my buddy Jeff saw the news everybody saw. Trout season opened up, and he says, Dave, let's go out for one last hurrah. And I said, all right, I'm game. You think there's enough ice? He says there's got to be at least 6 inches. So we're at like 8 inches, 8 to 9 inches here. A little thinner in the middle, but not too much. And we started the day off at 14 degrees. It's Sunday today. And we chased flags all day. A lot of bait stealers. At one point, geez, how much bait was off our hooks? Six shiners missing. Thank goodness little Addison says, let's check our bait. So we changed up our bait. That's when it got slow, but picked right back up again. I think we only had two brookies on the flags, but unbelievable with the jig. And I jigged up 3 myself, lost about 2 more. They had to have been brookies. My buddy Jeff behind the camera, he jigged up a bunch of them. His buddy Jesse jigged up a bunch before he left early. We've been out here since 8 o'clock fishing, and it's like 5:30 now. We just picked up, but lo and behold, speaking of last hurrah, our 2 furthest flags went off at one point, and I pulled up a monster crappie. I says, Jeff, should we drill out there and bring the radar? And sure enough, we got on them, the likes of which you can only imagine. Well, look at the fish Addison's holding. Really good, all around this size. A couple smaller, we're letting them go, but we got a pile of them, crappie and perch. Really good way to end the season. Glad we made it out today. And well, I'll see you in open water.
Thanks a lot, Dave. I'm sure you've been out on the ice a lot this winter, but I'm sure that is going to be your last ice report of the season. It's on to open water, but it wasn't just Dave that hit the ice in Connecticut this week. As I heard from Truman Curtis, he found some hard water up in Litchfield on Monday, along with his dad, and they did quite well on the trout as well. As Truman is now 16, you've seen him in a bunch of my video updates in the past, as well as on the local covers here in New England. Well, now he's 16, so this week was his first official catch on his brand new Connecticut fishing license. It was a great way to christen that, of course. Now, the father-son duo landed a handful of the brook trout, and they said they witnessed a bunch of anglers nearby ice about a dozen or so brookies as well. So big congrats to all of you up there fishing in Litchfield, still finding a little bit of hard water. Of course, going forward, be extra, double, even triple careful when you're heading out, because it's beautiful here today. We are fast losing that ice. And of course, with all these trout reports coming in, I got a couple out a couple of times myself with my son. He loves the trout fishing, so we've been getting on that. Hit a couple of the recently stocked trout streams in my area of Connecticut along the southeast corner of the state. Primarily so far, it's been rainbows and brown trout. Still hunting that first brookie or even tiger of the season for either of us, but I gotta say, we've been running into people here and there, but honestly, it has not been that bad, surprisingly so. Everybody's been keeping their distance, staying socially distanced as required, giving lead to space if you're already there. Haven't yet run into any problems. I mean, today, here it is, a spot that I was fishing this weekend. We had half a dozen guys stretched through the area. Of course, middle of the week, middle of the day, no one is out here but me. Got a couple of nice rainbows for my effort. So, you know, going forward, state of Connecticut is going to continue to expand stocking. They've been targeting a lot of the southeast corner so far, and they're going to spread across the state. You can, of course, check thefisherman.com as I've got stocking updates posted there. And then last up this week, I'll leave you with another warm weather report, once again from Captain Jason Colby, as he was back down in Florida last week, this time around harassing the local peacock bass population. Also, while he was there, he met up with a couple Little Sister customers who recently moved down to the Tampa area, as well as regular Little Sister angler Alan Sheriff, and they did a bit of saltwater fishing for Spanish Max, sheephead, mangrove snapper, and a host of other species which they got into. Back home, Jason is quickly booking up spring haddock and flounder at a good clip, so get in touch with him as soon as possible and you can fish with him as well this spring. All right, well, there you go. As always, if you plan to head out and fish this weekend, which I sure will be doing, be sure by starting your trip off by visiting thefisherman.com.
Steigercraft boats, built by people who fish our waters. Serious anglers choose Steigercraft for their 40 years of boat building experience right here in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. Visit steigercraft.com for a dealer near you.